Welcome to Hancock's VMware Half Hour. And welcome back to another episode of Hancock's VMware Half Hour. Well, I promised it. So today we're going to get into some vLCM or VMware vCenter Server Life Cycle Manager for its posh title. But basically a mechanism to update your VMware vSphere hypervisors. And today we're going to look at the ESXi 8, and we're going to patch that, upgrade that, update, upgrade, patch, whatever you want to call it. We're going to upgrade that to fix VMSA-2025-0004, the critical day vulnerability, which affects 6.7, 6.5, 7 and 8.0, and we're going to apply the fix ESXi 80U3D-24585-383 to our lab. You may remember that we use the HPE ProLiant, the HPE Micro ProLiant servers, Gen 8s in our lab here. They're not on the Harbor compatibility list anymore, and to be honest, you're really using them in a home lab, really they do struggle because the maximum amount of memory on them is 16 gig, and VMware vCenter Server now is almost at 16 gig, and as you can see here, ESXi 001 has got a host memory usage already on it, and all that is hosting. If we have a little look at the VMs that are on, are the VCLS HA cluster services, and we've got VMware vCenter Server 8.0 3D Lite. And the reason I called it Lite, you may remember, if you look back in some of our videos that I've done, I showed you one of the problems with updating VMware vCenter Server using the reduced downtime method is the size of the virtual disks grow, and they sort of kind of grow exponentially and out of control. And in the lab here, our VMware vCenter Server disks were about almost not far off a terabyte. So we rebuilt it, and that's why effectively I call it VMware vCenter Server 8.0 3D Lite, so it's back to normal. So we're going to use vLCM. I have covered this before. In part 38, I showed you how to remediate a vSphere cluster from ESXi 8.0U2 to ESXi 8.0U3, adding the HPE OEM add-on as well. So we're going to basically use exactly the same recipe, but we're going to upgrade, uplift, update, patch, whatever you want to call it. So our current servers are running 8.0U3B 2428077 standard. So we're going to uplift one of these using vLCM in our cluster. Now, as I said to you before, I don't know why many people don't use vLCM to update their cluster. Now, remember that baselines are being depreciated. So you better get used to the idea if you're using Update Manager or vLCM, whatever you want to call it. Going forward, images assigned to clusters is going to be the norm. So get out of the habit of using baselines, use images, create an image per cluster, and then remediate a host or remediate all the hosts. Depends on really how big your balls are, really. Whether or not that you actually basically want to remediate your entire cluster, walk away, grab a coffee and come back and find basically that it's gone completely Pete Tong, or whether or not that you actually basically do one at a time. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to be doing another video. We're going to use vLCM. We're actually going to be using vLCM tomorrow in a production environment, whereby we're actually going to apply the 7.03 S patch to a cluster of 7.03R vSAN, a small vSAN cluster node by one of our clients. So we're going to video that tomorrow as well, because I did actually sort of promise that we would cover 7 and 8 using vLCM. Again, that's a Dell cluster, so we'll be applying the OEM add-on. So again, just to recap and summarize, if you have a vSAN cluster, if you have a cluster, if you manage your cluster using VMware vCenter Server and you're licensed for it, and VMware vCenter Server has access to the internet, then use vLCM. Don't use the dirty method, the OTA method, or the depot method. Use vLCM, because basically it will take all the heavy lifting out of it for you. So I'm going to just grab a drink of pop. I've had a few coffees today already, so I thought I'd stop. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get into basically what we're going to do. I think we're going to target ESXi 002. This is a server that we're going to target today in this video. So that's currently on 242.807.67. So that's the server in this video that we are going to remediate and we're going to update, and this is how we do it. So the first thing that we need to do is select the cluster. So in our example here in our lab, we have a cluster called EE-cluster for Experts Exchange. And the first thing we need to do is we need to change the image now that we want to apply to our hosts. So the last image that we had defined was for the ESXi version 8.0 U3-240-22510. So if we click edit, we can use the drop down to select the version of ESXi that we want. Now, I have heard some people actually basically turned around and said that they were using vLCM and the update, which is 8.0 U3D, wasn't actually present. So I think that was because I think the internet blew up on the 4th of March 2025 and everybody quickly rushed to vLCM, and I think people were actually basically maybe pulled the trigger a bit too soon. It did, I think, populate later. As you can see, you know, we're about 20 something days in now, past the initial release. We could be 20 days actually. What's the date today? 23rd. So yeah, we're 19 days past the release. So we select the version that we actually want to upgrade to. So we want to upgrade to 8.0 U3D. And again, a reminder that updates are cumulative. So, you know, there's if you're on a version of 8.00 GA, you know, you don't have to basically go off and start patching every single one. You can just basically choose the last 8.0 U3D, as it says there, released on 4th of March 2025. The next thing I want to do is I want to actually have a little look at the vendor add-on. Now, these are vendor servers, so these are HPE. They could be Dell, they could be Fujitsu, they could be IBM, they could be Lenovo. And you actually basically want to use the vendor add-on. The vendor add-on will contain the customizations for their servers. And when I mean customizations, generally that's drivers. Now, I know a lot of people have been panicking about this critical zero-day update and waiting for a baked ISO, a baked OEM ISO to come from the vendors, and I think it's promised, I think, from Dell maybe next week. And a lot of people have been complaining that, you know, they can't patch because they need to wait for that. Well, you know, you don't have to wait for the OEM baked ISO to come from HPE or Dell or whoever. You can use vLCM. The only thing that you're going to be missing out on are the drivers that have been updated. But in this particular critical update, it's not the drivers that have actually caused the fault or caused the critical security update or caused the vulnerability. The vulnerability is actually in the base code of ESXi, not in the drivers. So you just need the base code of ESXi, not necessarily the drivers. So what I'm saying is, if you use ESXi version 8.0 U3D and there is no published customization yet, then when you actually update your servers, you're basically just going to update the base code which fixes the critical update, none of the drivers. So let's have a little look here, see whether or not that I would think it's possible that HPE has issued more drivers since 23. So let's have a little look. Let's have a little edit, and let's have a little search. I must admit, I do like Dell and Cisco's because they give you a nice version ID A03, A0 to follow. HPE's, is a little bit more confusing. Because they actually basically use, let me just sort that again by vendors. As I said, I do find Dell's a lot easier to select. So, HPE customization for HPE servers, and that was released. If we just, I think that was a 2025 one that I selected. Let's just select that. That doesn't really show me anything. Let's just go back again. So looking at the release date here, 6th of February 2025. So that's the one for me. Select. Now, technically, I am sort of kind of basically risking it here a little bit because these aren't officially on the HCL. So I'm really just actually basically doing this for shits and giggles and showing you that this is where you would actually basically select your vendor add-on for your vendor servers. If you had a firmware and driver add-on contract with Dell or HPE, then you could also basically select at the same time the firmware that matches your servers as well. So you could do a firmware update, driver update, ESXi update, all in one patch, if you like, which certainly basically saves you if you're doing a change control and having to go to a cab meeting, then you can basically do it all in one. So I'm going to click save. And that's now going to save that new image associated with the cluster. Now, it's immediately going to turn around and tell me that the existing 3 hosts are out of compliance. Out of compliance meaning they're out of date, which is obvious because they are running a previous version of ESXi, and they're also running a previous version of the Dell customization ISO. Now, I had a question this morning. I think somebody was getting a little bit concerned and wanted to update their server. They wanted to back up the ESXi config. And I sort of kind of explained to them that if all does go Pete Tong with the installation, you do have the opportunity when ESXi starts. The moment it's booting up, it will pause for 5 seconds, and it gives you the option there basically to hit Shift and R, which allows you to basically roll back to the previous version. So there are mechanisms to allow you to roll back to the previous version if the version that you've upgraded to doesn't start for whatever reason. Okay, so as I said to you, we're going to look at ESXi 002. And it's telling me that the CPU on this host may not be supported in future ESXi releases. Yes, we know that. Legacy boot detected. Yes, we know that because ESXi servers running legacy BIOS are encouraged to move to UEFI. And I understand that in the future, ESXi will only support UEFI. So I understand all that. So at this point, I'm just going to select remediate, which is a posh word for upgrade, install. So I'm going to basically select remediate for ESXi 002. Now, if I just go back there and I wanted to remediate the entire cluster, then I could actually basically just hit that button there, so remediate all. And that's what I was saying earlier. If you've got really big kahunas and you trust, and we do this on some sites. We just basically go to the cluster, we say remediate all, and we walk away. And basically, vLCM is vSAN aware, so it'll do the right things. If you're using 2-node vSAN, it'll do the witness first, followed by the other nodes. It'll put them into maintenance mode. If you've got DRS and HA enabled, then all the machines will move off. They'll get patched. restarted. If you've got quick boot mode enabled on your servers, then this patching happens even quicker. And again, you know, we are 19 days. We are 19 days from release, and I haven't heard of any gotchas out there using 8.03D or 7.03S either. So with that, I'm basically going to go back and I'm going to select remediate. So this is just basically going to remediate a single host, and that single host is ESXi 002. So I'm going to click start remediation, and basically it says started 401.34, and we now just basically sit back and wait. So with that, I'll speed all this up in post, and I'll come back when we are when we're done and we've updated ESXi 002 in our cluster. So I'll catch you later. And I'm back. Okay, so there we go. See how simple vLCM. God, I wish more people would use vLCM. Yes, I know new tech is a little bit scary. It's something that you've not used before. You've got a production environment. You don't want to break anything. Well, that's what labs are for. You know, download VMware Workstation. It's free. You know, download, create a few ESXi hosts, install vCenter server on VMware Workstation, and have a little play. Or there's even hands-on labs in VMware land that you can do this sort of kind of stuff as well. So there you go. In summary, we've used VMware vCenter Server 8.03D and VMware Lifecycle Manager, VLCM, to update one of our hosts. If we go back and have a little look in our inventory here, we were running 8.0U3B 242.80767 on ESXi 002, and now we've actually basically updated it to it's interesting, image profile there has changed. It says updated VMware Lifecycle Manager generated image, but if you actually basically look here, it's 8.0324585383, and you will notice that through that as well, I switched to ILO because otherwise you'd just be looking at VMware vCenter server waiting for it to reboot. So it did actually basically reboot the host, and you can see here that our build is 245.85383, which also includes that OEM add-on as well. So we've got lots of fresh drivers installed, which are the February 2025 ones for HPE. Plus, we've actually basically got our critical 0-day patch applied, so that actually basically is not going to suffer that critical security update anymore. All done by vLCM with very little effort. So that's it. Give it a go. Give it a go. As I said to you, if you're still doing OTA, dirty method updates in a cluster, then try something different. Try something different and make your support life easier. Why do boring stuff? I was going to say a word there, but it affects the ratings of the video. Why do boring stuff when you can actually basically use vLCM to do all the heavy lifting. As I said, you can basically set it and forget it, walk away, and you'll come back and your server will be updated. And of course, if it was in maintenance mode to start with, it would have left it in maintenance mode at the end. So the state that it's in when it starts the remediation is the state that it's going to be left. But as part of the remediation, it has to put it into maintenance mode to affect DRS and HA to move all those servers off that are powered on basically before it can do the update. So no need to wait for a baked ISO from your vendor. No need to panic. No need to worry about where you're going to get the depot file from. No need to worry. The only thing is you're obviously going to need internet access for VMware vCenter server to actually basically interact and pull those updates down to then apply them. The hosts don't need internet access. I don't think so. But VMware vCenter server will to pull down those updates. And if we just actually edit again, I'm not going to change it, but as you can see here, if we just have a little look, all the versions are there. And if we basically just edit our vendor add-on, then I miss Cisco. So, you know, you've got vendor add-ons for Cisco, Dell. Can you hear that Blackbird again? Hitachi, and Lenovo. So, you know, those are the main vendors, you know, these days. I noticed that Fujitsu's not in the list. You can populate these, so you can obviously import a vendor add-on as well. So vLCM for version 8 or update, or using vLCM to update 8.0, update 3D. Don't need a depot file because vLCM is going to do all the heavy lifting for you. Wow, tired. Still got toothache. Didn't sleep very well last night. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching another Hancock's VMware half hour. This one is about 30 minutes, but we'll try and shorten it down in post to speed up some of those long clips for you. If you've enjoyed this video, then please thumbs up. If you don't like it, then don't like it, please sometime. But please subscribe and come back for another Hancock's VMware half hour when tomorrow I'm scheduled, if I can get it in the cab, and if I can get change approval tomorrow, we'll probably go forward and patch a host which is running 7.03R Dell R640 in a vSAN cluster. But we'll tread a bit lightly with this one. So what we'll probably do, the plan will be we will update one in the cluster. We'll give it a few days and then we'll update the rest. But we are a little bit late because the security and governance for this particular client is that 0-day critical updates or updates with a CVSS above 7 need to be applied within 14 days. Yeah, so we're 4 days overdue. So cyber security team's probably going to be maybe shouting at me tomorrow. But the problem is really when the patch dropped, I was on Hollybobs. Well, yeah, I was on Hollybobs in Edinburgh and Glasgow and Liverpool because I was following Fish from Marillion, and I was on holiday, and we were going to go forward and do the patches, but we thought it was probably maybe we'd wait until I actually basically got back rather than applying them and then running away and it all going peak tong, and wouldn't have been good, wouldn't have been very professional. Yeah, so I've been in and out in February and March, but I'm now back. So anyway, that's tomorrow. So we'll record that one and we'll get that one uploaded so that you can see. But again, it's exactly the same recipe that we're going to follow. All we're going to do is effectively select 7.0. Well, I can probably show you here. Not that we'll apply it, but we'll probably find that, yeah, 7.0U3S is here. And if we actually have a little look at the entitlements for Dell, then the latest Dell is A24, 9th of December 2024. They've not issued one yet in December 2025, because, as I said, I think that next week is when they actually basically issue their new baked ISO A25. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching me this afternoon. Come back soon. So once again, goodbye, and I'll catch you again. I'm trying to find my mouse to say stop recording. Anyway, all the best now. Goodbye.